Welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast with me, Sean Anderson, the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media. The RAG is the show where I bring to you stories from recruitment owners, traditionally all about growing an agency. Soon enough, it's going to be all about the future of the modern agency. But in this interesting time that we find ourselves right now, in the middle of lockdown 2, as we call it, it's all about understanding the reality of today's pandemic. I'm super excited to be joined by someone I know really well, a long-term client of Hoxo, both the academy and the agency, someone who works and leads one of I believe one of the most well-regarded agencies in London and with a global footprint. Charlie Sell, who's the MD of Arrows Group Global. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sean. Good to be here, mate.
It's a pleasure. And it's the first time you've been on LinkedIn Live, so don't worry, I'll help you through it. But it's from where we're looking, you wouldn't know anyway, would you? It feels like you're on Zoom. Yeah. I've given you a mini intro there, mate, but tell us a little bit more about you, your role, what it is you do at Arrows.
Yeah, so my name's Charlie Sell, as you said, the Group MD for Arrows Group, and Arrows is a technical recruitment and workforce solutions consultancy. So based in London, Holland, Germany. So Pan-Europe is essentially our breadth, and specialised pretty much within software engineering, data, cloud, and cyber. So as you said, we've been around for 15 years. Yep. So quite well established, albeit through quite a journey.
Seen some real ups and downs over the 15 years, but has 2020 stood out as the most eventful year?
Well, yes. I mean, it's been the most changing year, or having to deal with the unknowns. I mean, as I said, the business as a whole, we've had years where we've done some transformational stuff, and years where we've done some pretty untransformational stuff. But 2020. We've really had to come together for it. And yeah, every day it felt like a learning, I guess.
No, for sure. So, look, in the start of the show, what I want to do is I want to effectively go back. Let's have a chat about the first wave, and then let's get under the bonnet of this current wave and see what's going on. So, can you tell us what did your agency, what did the whole situation look like in early March? Like, what was Arrows looking like? What sort of shape were you in? What sort of mood were you guys in the beginning of March before things twisted?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a bit of everything's a bit of a story, isn't it? But in terms of shape, we're in really good shape. We've over the last few years we've transformed the business back into a loud and proud recruitment company, and very much growing the business across all of our offices. But and then had high hope for this year. Ironically, when everyone was talking about the pandemic and it was coming, I was in a bit of self-denial, and we were actually in Meinhofen skiing as a work incentive the weekend before we went into lockdown, and we were in the epicenter of everything closing down. So yeah, I mean, pre-lockdown, I was probably in a bit of denial, to be totally honest with you, that anything was really going to impact us and change us. And
so yeah, boy, was I wrong. Did it become really obvious on that trip then that things were changing?
Everything was closing around us on a daily. We flew out on the Thursday before the Thursday lockdown. Even then, there was news that the resorts, the other side of the mountains, were closing, and we thought we were safe. We're outside the whole time. What better place is there to be? And then literally we started worrying that we weren't going to be able to fly home, because airports were shutting, and you couldn't travel through Italy, of course. And that's when it started becoming very real. And actually, that's when we moved really quickly, saying this is actually really going to happen, reported it back to the UK, and had to get everyone set up on laptop. Our IT team were just phenomenal, because they got everyone remote within 4 days, because we hadn't prepared for it. I didn't think it was going to happen, so we had to move very quickly.
How many, for the listeners, how many staff did you have, and yeah, what was the kind of tech setup at the time as you're going into that situation?
Yeah, so 75 staff across the UK and the Netherlands office, and only a handful had laptops, probably less 10. So everyone else was off, just standard servers in the offices. And then we had a pool of laptops that people were using when they were doing flexi work or what have you. But yeah, no, we had to go and source. I think they sourced 45 laptops or 50 laptops within a week, got them conditioned, got them formatted. Luckily, all of our systems are web enabled. So from our CRM to our phone system. So that was good. But no, we had to move really, really quickly.
Can you imagine what life was like for those companies that week? I think it was a couple of other recruitment companies of like 200-300 people I spoke to said the same thing, and that's just recruitment, right? The amount of sectors that would have been so desk bound, logistically must have been a nightmare. Not only getting the machines, but then getting them out to your house and making sure they work. I mean, wow.
Yeah. I mean, again, as I say, what really impressed me with our IT team is they managed to get everything sourced. So we were able to give laptops before I think it was the Thursday cutoff, wasn't it? They announced it on a Monday that lockdown would happen on the Thursday. So literally on that Wednesday, we were, people were coming in like a conveyor belt, being given, sharing it, and then the online support, for the first week post it, and we. And again, I won't take the credit for this, but our IT team, anyone who didn't have Wi-Fi at home or strong enough Wi-Fi, they also went and fixed that and got that sorted, speaking to providers, so speaking language that we would never learn, even though we're a technical recruitment business, to get the best bandwidths and all the rest of it. It was an interesting week.
So how would you describe culturally how you guys were set up? Like, what was I know you mentioned flexi working, but what was it really like working at Arrows pre-COVID?
Yeah, it's you're right. Everyone talks about flexi working. People have talked about it for like a year leading up to this, and what do people actually do it or not? And in reflection, now I know what it really means. You look back and go, yeah, we weren't. Really what we were very good, what we are good at, and I'm proud of, is people with kids, people on part-time hours, people with, who live far away. We have always been very good at offering flexi time and an environment to support them. But we sort of had a blind arrogance or presumption that anyone who doesn't have those sort of commitments would want to be in the office 5 days a week. And although there's an element of truth to that, I now know from like a graduate level who thrive or need the camaraderie. It's not true of everyone, and it's not. You don't just have to be a parent to want and embrace flexi time, which was where we were pre-COVID. We thought we were a great company because we're able to employ people from different scenarios because we offer this. But no, I think we've learned what it really means now.
I bet. So take us through that first wave then, the March and April. What was daily life like? Once you got everyone at home, I remember you had a considerable contract base, you're a really strong company running, across multiple regions, loads of big corporates. What was the reality like as being MD? What sort of calls were you receiving? What sort of conversations were you having in those earliest days?
Yeah, great question. A tale of two halves, really. We were lucky that our contract, we have a strong contract book. So the first week was client engagement across our contractor book. So, because it was the unknown. So speaking to our clients, obviously not with an element of panic, but more of how is this affecting you? How can we help you? So at senior levels, so across all levels within a client, from our contractors on site all the way through up to the CXO suite. And just making sure we had visibility if that was going to be impacted or not. Yeah. Because obviously that would have been quite a fundamental change for what we had to do. Our perm business froze overnight. I mean, I think I mentioned to you in one of the academies, and what I've loved about the academies, without doing too much of a plug, is the camaraderie of other business leaders. Because I was doing your academy right through lockdown. I think we started
it, didn't we?
Yeah. And so to be able to share that sort of feeling, our perm business just froze, and so there was a lot of unknown for staff.
How did it affect like potential deals you'd already done? Do you know the ones that are either just about to start, already had started in probation? Was there any obvious change there?
So luckily for us, but I heard a lot worse. We had a few non-starters, but nothing that fundamentally actually changed it. It was just the freeze of projects that in April, May, and June. So it was the new business that suddenly stopped. And there was no end. Everyone thought it would last 6 weeks, then 2 months, then 3 months. So, again, I've spoken to you quite a lot about it. I think June, July, I was starting to get quite nervous around, is this going to end? Luckily, it did, and that sort of faith does. But yeah, to answer the question, those first couple of months, I think the first week or two, it's a honeymoon period. People are getting used to working from home with and everyone was working from home, so clients were very receptive, and everyone was giving each other sort of confidence. I think weeks 3, 4, and 5, when clients started saying that things were unknown and people were getting a little bit of fatigued on how to structure themselves, that's when we had to sort of dig a bit deeper and really think about what we were going to do.
I bet. What decisions, what's the most difficult decisions you had to make, and how did that feel?
Furlough. I mean, everyone talks about it. I thought we were a knight in shining armor offering people furlough. I think the junior guys, because we predicted it was going to be a really tough 3 weeks, 6 weeks, and it was unfair on anyone junior to if we could support them, and whilst we were unknown. But furlough, I think, had for recruitment, for any sales business, I think it actually had quite a negative effect that we weren't prepared for, in the fact that there's a lot of pride in jobs, and to be told that you're great, but not quite good enough to stay on, and you're going to sit at home for a period of time, actually had a really negative impact. And then we suffered. I don't know if anyone else found this, but the guys and girls still working started building a little bit of resentment, going, hold on, we're in the office every day, or the virtual office, banging our head and not earning commissions because our clients are frozen, and yet there's our colleagues who are at home not doing anything, and then there was colleagues at home saying, put me in the game, I'm bored out of my skull and I want to be working. And so we had to learn.
It's a bit like a football team or a sports team. If you're on the bench, it doesn't matter what the manager tells you, you're going to feel a certain way. You're going to. I was watching I don't know if you watched any of the Amazon Prime documentaries, All or Nothing. There's a really good All Blacks one, and I watched the start of the Tottenham Hotspur one this week, and Eric Dyer gets taken off after 29 minutes by Mourinho, and it's his reaction's incredible, and the way that Mourinho's like, I wouldn't normally start him in the next game, but I think I have to for the family, for the feeling of. But it reminds me of that period, because there was no flexibility in the early days, was there? You couldn't say come back part-time. You had to draw a line. You're either in or you're out. And as a leader, it's a ballsy decision to choose what you want to do with people at that point.
Yeah. And it's following the rules of furlough as well. I mean, we literally followed it by the letter of the law, which is obviously the right thing to do. But there's still uncertainty on what that meant. Can you train people? Can you keep them engaged? Are they allowed to be on meetings? Because I like to think like a sports team and all the rest of it. We kept our trainers. So we didn't furlough our training. We didn't furlough HR. We didn't actually furlough the back office at all. In the feeling that we need to keep investing in the people working as well as those not. But what were you allowed to do? Were you allowed to let people on furlough have a training, or is that commercial activity? And that slight paranoia that the worst thing you want to be doing is getting on the wrong side of HMRC and the rules, but you need to keep people engaged.
How big's your leadership team now, or how big was it then?
Yeah, so I mean, if you include back office, we've got 4 directors, sales directors essentially, and probably 3 people at the same level in finance, L&D, and HR.
So I'm just trying to get my head around, especially for the listeners who are maybe in the smaller agencies. Like, what were you doing all day? Like, I know you were with me at times doing academy work, but what were you as the MD? What was your actual day plan like in the middle of the worst lockdown, the first one?
So that is a great question, because one of the things I've learned more in this lockdown period, which I will never ever go back to now, was getting too far away from clients. So pre-lockdown, growing the business, investing in different things, I got so far away from our clients, and other than sort of quality control stuff, that when lockdown happened and I was literally looking at okay, I need to add value here. This is revenue generating time. This is team time. It was almost like starting from scratch. I literally started from scratch again, having to reignite relationships. And I became a 360 consultant in my own way. The podcasts have been, so through the academy, that social media appeal, having to reinvent, who you are. And, I'm no longer.
How did you feel? I mean, obviously, I was already thinking about the academy, but lockdown just forced it. It forced my hand, right? And like I said, I've said on a lot of these that I had a lot of calls from people saying, Sean, like, I need to do something different. I need to get back on the tools. Like all my team have gone. And I was like, so the academy was like, as a leader, you've got to be visible. You've got to get out there. You've got to, you can produce content daily, and you can also interview your clients. And so how did you feel doing that? Because it was very new for you, I think, at that point.
It was, but for me personally, it plays into my personality, because it's a way of engaging. You're right, getting clients engaged, offering something different, and being relevant. Because one of the things I'm constantly aware of when having leadership teams, there's nothing worse for a salesperson than having a manager come and take over the relationship of their client for either their own gratification or because they think they can do the job better than you can. The relationships are built at peer level and at that level. So there was no point me coming into the business saying, okay, guys, I'm going to speak to every one of our current clients and I'm going to upsell what isn't there to upsell. So the podcast was just a brilliant way of gaining new traction, thinking of unique reasons to gauge a wider audience. And it gave confidence to the business. They loved seeing myself and others, just being the face of the company and getting out there. But you need the vehicles to do it. And lockdown, we had a lot of time. I wasn't being dragged into meetings left, right, and centre for what, in hindsight, you don't need to spend half an hour talking about the coffee machine license or something like this. You need to empower people to do that, and that's been the biggest learn for us. Is no matter what level we're a client first business, and that's the love of the business. And lockdown, has tested that for us. I'd like to think to the positive, because I've also never got closer to my staff. Being able to actually teams them or to talk about a live situation and say, okay, this is what's going on. That builds relationships beyond anything else.
100%. We called it like the daily Cobra meeting, where we had like the whole business and we had like 15 of us on a Zoom every morning. And it was like, how are you feeling, everyone? And we went from being close, I would say, like a good culture, close, to being like rock solid tight in about 6 weeks. And the guys that I think you'll always have that now. You'll look back in a few years and be like, you look at your teams and you think they were the COVID lot. They went through the pandemic together. Like, you'll see it. And even now, like, we've had people join our team since, and the first thing they say is the culture is amazing. Whereas I wouldn't say that was probably the first thing that people said when they joined a year ago. So there's positives in there. But one thing you mentioned there around the being visible, the byproduct of content is, I put it in LinkedIn today on a post, right? Everyone thinks new business. And that was probably the reason you did it, I imagine. Get out in front of new clients. It's the main hook that people take with this whole building personal brand journey. But the byproducts of being visible to your existing clients, like the account management of the clients you already work with, is just because you can never get around them enough on the phone. No one can ever do it. And then your teams. And then, the amount of time that your recruiters can see you leading from the front, having great quality conversations, representing their brand, it's really powerful. And I don't think people realize that till they try it.
Yeah. Again, I totally agree with you. I mean, one of the things, I can't remember if it was you that mentioned it or someone in the group, the other angle of this is give content for free. Be the person who's actually credible, and so that's the other bit I've enjoyed about this whole lockdown period is be the one who's actually going out there, telling people what your tech stack is, or recommending the girls in tech aggregator spreadsheets that people are sharing, because the more you're putting out there, and it has come back, like I say, I'm really happy with how we've treated lockdown 2, and I'm sure we'll come onto it. but we've won some significant business now off the back of building that momentum, and people are embracing it, so yeah, it's interesting, but it was it was a learning curve the whole way through, I guess.
What would you say was the way that, like, the biggest, you said, you've mentioned the learnings of you personally, but how did you keep the team engaged, I suppose is my question. Like, when you've got 75 people, I mean, I'm talking about 15, so growing up to like 20 now, but 75 is a bit different. You've got 2 locations, everyone's at home. Was there any kind of ideas or strategies that you guys deployed that worked well that you could share with us?
Yeah. There's some that worked really well and others that didn't. We, like every company, we introduced like the weekly quizzes and stuff like this. And to be honest with you, I found after weeks 3, 4, and 5, they actually got pretty repetitive, and you could see, what we learned very quickly is you've got to keep things fresh. So one of the things I was most happy about, I was recommended a drag queen business in Amsterdam who they come and jump in on your weekly meetings and take them over and get your staff doing karaoke and all of this, and that was brilliant. So we had some wonderful drag queen who interrupted our town halls, and everyone loved it. Magicians coming in, cooking courses. So the spontaneity, I think what we tried to do, which did work, keeping people engaged, was to try and keep it very spontaneous and what that session was going to be. We tried, and this didn't work, do the coffee chats where, I was free every Friday from 11 till 12. And if anyone wanted to come and have a coffee and then a chat, and there was probably the same few people coming back in, but that didn't work, I don't think. People have got stuff to do, but having a forum where people could have ideas on what to do. I was mentioning to you. Did you
use like Slack or any internal comms for keeping communication?
Yeah, so MS Teams, the main one. We've got so many platforms now. So we use Slack for our clients. We use MS Teams for internal. We use Zoom for everything else, Google Hangouts. But so we've got an all hands MS Teams. This is a nice one actually. Our booster business, they set a different challenge each day on their group, and you had to contribute to it. So like your memory, your funniest story, or your a picture of you as a toddler, or stuff like this. And every day someone was the winner, and then they thought of another theme for the following coming days. Your top tunes or whatever.
So it was just every day a different idea contribute to.
But in smaller groups, that worked really well in like the smaller groups doing different. And again, to be totally open with you, I regurgitated what I was on in one group into the other group and into the other group. So it's a bit like playing multi-chess, because I was starting all these little groups.
I'm interrupting this podcast to give you another update from our sponsor, Audro. The team at Audro have launched another feature in summer 2020, and it's going to be a game changer. This is going to massively change the way the recruitment agency market operates globally for the future. They've called it Audro Producer. This platform sits alongside the company's award-winning video interview opportunity, and gives you, the recruiter, the ability to create engaging, eye-catching video content ready to share in a matter of minutes. So you can record or upload a video, and then you can add banners, overlays, images, subtitles, logos, so that you can create these eye-catching videos that are built for LinkedIn. So whether you're interviewing, whether you're doing sales messaging, or you're just trying to put out valuable content online, then Audro is no longer just a video interview platform. It's also a content creation platform for recruiters. Get in touch with Audro today to see how you can implement this into your recruitment agency ASAP. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the show. How did you find your personal situation through lockdown? Like, trying to juggle being, a family man as well as a managing director of a business with they've got families to worry about.
Yeah, again, there was a honeymoon period, then there was a challenge, and then there was getting used to it. So the honeymoon period of being around, being at home, not commuting an hour and a half each way, that was fantastic. And I'm fortunate that my wife doesn't work full time, so was able to take on a lion's share of childcare. But then fatigue kicks in. Yeah, I think the middle period where the school's not open, and everyone under one roof was tough.
Did you
I've
have
got
a
2 young children.
dedicated office?
Yeah. That, again, I'm sort of semi-fortunate that I have that and garden space and the rest, because what we saw. So personally, I can't work 5 days a week from home. What I miss is people interaction. The love of the heartbeat of a business. The coffee chats, all the rest of it. So for me, staying structured every day, into weeks 4, 5, and 6 was tough. And I had to stop myself doing spontaneous calls to keep myself going. We had to introduce like meetingless Wednesdays, because we were starting to create this sort of, I'm going to grab you for an hour for nothing else, for my own sanity, but that's actually taking people away from the job. But we did start worrying a lot about the guys and girls who live in central London that are in flat shares or with no outdoor space. And then that started sort of hitting home. Christ, we've got to think more about what we're going to do as a business during this time.
Yeah, that's the thing about this pandemic I've realized is everyone sees it from their own lens. Like, the students, the parents, the school children, the school teachers, the professionals, the MDs, the doctors, the nurses, like everyone, like OAPs, you name it, they've got their own challenge. So, as a government, they've got the problem of trying to keep everyone happy. But as a business, you do have to look at each individual and think, well, what is that circumstance? And are we supporting them within reason? Are we supporting them as best we can? So when things started to relax towards the back end of the summer, that was when our academy time together ended. What happened at Arrows and yourself? How did you guys go back to the new normal? What did it look like?
Yeah, so we've embraced so the whole flexi working. So we open the office Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we're doing 3 days at home, 2 days in. Thursday, so that's the day to come in and obviously crack on, but the chance to be with the teams for a drink after work, and Tuesdays was sort of presented. But the theory was we would do 2 really long days and absolutely smash it, because then we'd finish at lunchtime on a Friday, and so it's only Monday and Wednesday where you've got to keep yourself going at home.
Yeah,
I think the reality, you don't want to. That was going back to a world of where you're saying to people you're being judged by how long you're in the office on a Tuesday and Thursday, and because you're not trusted to work on a Monday and Wednesday, and so it sort of became counterproductive. So we've been learning. So we're 2 days a week. The office is open 4 days a week, but the third day of work is totally up to you. As I say, the trust level now is through the roof. The team's smaller. That's the reality of a bit of COVID. So, but it's now the COVID team. Like you said earlier, the people now it reminds me of Arrows 10 years ago, and the world is your oyster now. But we've been through this together, just like any other recession, and you come out stronger. So people are actually having a say now in what they want the business to be. And
how would it work then if I work for you and I fancy coming in today or not? What's the protocols to make sure that it's set up and I get there and there's no issues or whatever?
So yeah, our head of HR, Hattie. So you register. Basically, we're set on Tuesdays and Thursdays because our back office comes in on Mondays and Wednesdays. So so as a sales function, there's enough room across. But we've got 2 floors of the business. But as we grow again, it's all on a rota system with a track and trace, and it'll end up being team focused. So that's why I mean that we're open 4 days a week, but you'll be coming in 2 days a week because it would be based on teams and structure. And we're learning again as we go. The whole flexible approach to this is to say, you come in for meaning, not because you need to be seen. So it's that camaraderie and the working practice, and rather than if I'm not in today, they presume I'm not working.
Yeah, I really hope like that's gone from the industry after this. Like I really do, because we've all been through it. We've all had it. And I'm the same. I mean, I moved away. I'm in Manchester now, so I'm dying for the lockdown to end just so I can come to London. Like, I want to do 1 night a week in London and then 2 days in the office in London. That is my perfect, or 2 nights, 3 days. But and my team is so dotted all over now. Like they recorded a video the other day. There's Gurney, one of my members, went off to Barbados on that scheme. So she signed up and she moved out there last month, and she's loving life. We hired a girl in lockdown in Texas and a guy in Johannesburg. So we've got this. They've not even met the team, right? They've never met any of them. And there's a girl in London I've never met because we hired her in April. It's been absolutely mental. But the bit that I'm yet to see, because we've not done it yet, and I'm interested in, just for my own benefit as well as what you've done, when you do have that blended model, how do you get it right? Because before, at least when you're locked down, you're all locked down, and when you're all in the office, you're all in the office. So regardless of whether it's great or what, the simplicity as a leader like you to say, well, I know everyone's in, or I know they're not. When you know, I think that team's coming in Tuesday, but I've got to check with Hattie, and 3 of them are in and 2 of them at home. Do they go on Zoom? Do they ring on the phone? Do they stand around on board? Like what? How are you managing that?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it's the simple answer is embracing tech. So whether you're all in or you're only half in, everything is still done now for us on MS Teams and whiteboards on MS Teams. So even if you're all in, you're still putting up the same information, around on the screens, talking about what you're planning to do. So people can then log in without it being disruptive or breaking the flow of it. Right. I mean, we've changed our business similar to you as well, where Holland used to be very separate and looked after Holland, Germany after Germany. We've become borderless almost overnight now. So actually it means that people are having to work in teams where no one will ever always be in the office, because we're now, the teams are virtual as much as based in the UK. So it's just having to embrace a lot of the stuff we've always wanted to do, and then work through the hiccups that happens. I mean, we've got a final interview happening tomorrow where it's going to be a whole mixture of different logins and Zooms, because this person's going to be meeting people from all over the place, and we're trying to do virtual beers for the cultural bit of it, and we're just being really honest with people, saying that if this doesn't work, tell us, because we're learning as we go.
Yeah. A final interruption to today's episode to introduce Vincere. Vincere is the all-in-one CRM ATS platform built for the recruitment and staffing industry. Now, I first heard about these guys about a year ago. The amount of prospect recruitment agencies and clients I was working with that were telling me they were moving over to Vincere, I had to look into it. And what I found was a business that had a global reach with multiple offices around the world. So they've got this follow the sun methodology, which allows them to support recruitment businesses wherever you are and be in your time zone. But the technology that they've invested in is becoming a disruptor in the space. More and more recruitment businesses are doing this to give their recruiters a competitive advantage. They broke into the G2 Crowd's momentum grid as a market leader based on their reviews from their customers. So the agencies that are using this platform are raving about it. Now, if you're a RAG listener and you're thinking about changing CRM, or you're a new business looking to launch with a new CRM, then I would get in touch with these guys, because if you mention that you're a RAG listener, they're doing an amazing deal. By visiting www.vincere.io/RAG, you can get an exclusive deal which offers 2 months completely free on a 2-year commitment, or 3 months completely free on a 3-year commitment. This applies to all licenses that you've either signed up for now or that you'll add in the duration of the contract. So get on there and have a look. Finally, if you're listening and you're a recruiter and you're thinking, I want to move into a more of a business development role, and I'd like to keep hold of my recruitment knowledge. Well, these guys are recruiting for a BD person, multiple roles in both Sydney and London right now. So if you've got a strong recruitment background, you want to move into BD, and you want to work for a fast moving tech business that's helping people like you right now, then get in touch via their website, because they're hiring today. Back to the show. We do this thing where we've stopped talking about business on a couple of meetings a week. So we just chat, like everyone just chats. And again, I think we were already going down a lot of the virtual route anyway. So I don't know if I can compare myself completely to some of the more like office bound recruitment companies. But what would you say you missed the most then? If you're looking back to pre-March, what do you miss the most, being honest, like as an individual first?
Yeah, I mean, as an individual, I do miss people. I'm my personal joy is being around vibrancy and when your company is humming, you're humming, and when it's not, you can have a positive impact really quickly if you're living it and you're part of it. So I definitely do miss that without a shadow of a doubt. What else? Client meetings, as a client and candidate meetings. I mean, but from a client side, being able just to go and have a coffee with your favorite clients and have that FaceTime with them.
What about
what
don't you miss? What don't you miss?
Pardon?
What don't you miss? What have you looked back and gone, God, I can't believe you did that for that long?
Yeah, pointless meetings, to be honest. So meetings for the sake of meetings, which I don't think we're ever actually that bad at, but you do realise what don't I miss? The commute, obviously, being a key thing, and being able to use that time for family and exercise. Weirdly, having to put on a war face the whole time. One of the nice things about working from home is if you're having a bit of a dull, a lap, or you need to just go out and do something, you can do it without, whereas if you're front and center entire days,
I had that just before this call. So I'm on the phone and my dog's going absolutely mental. And the building I've moved to has got like I can see him out the window. So there's a courtyard and there's a concierge. And they always say to me, if you want us to look after the dog, let us know. And I was like, there's never been a better time. I'm going live on LinkedIn in a minute. And he's climbing the walls. I've been on call since 8 a.m. And I was like, I got him out and I walked around the block. And I had that moment where I was like, if I was in the office now, I'd be so much more stressed because of the way I would look. And I looked at an absolute raving lunatic about an hour ago, just pacing around. So I know that feeling. So what do you think is going to happen? Like, I mean, you're not an epidemiologist, I'm sure, but what's your honest opinion of how the country's going to evolve and how the recruitment industry is going to evolve as a result?
Yeah, again, really good questions, because I think I truly hope it does fundamentally change forever now. For recruitment, I truly believe recruitment will move into a data-led business that happens to place people. Myself and James Parsons, the founder of Arrows, speak about that quite regularly, that if you're not investing in technology as a recruitment business, so you've not got the best tools, you're not looking at how to do that, then you're going to be left behind. That you'll always need people in sales. There'll always be a need for people to build relationships and to manage candidate relationships. But tech is the future, and it's a data-led business. And the embracing of creating cultures of excellence, but not having to have people working for the love of beer money and other things, but actually you can give careers. I mean, the other bit that's got quite close to our heart is, everyone talks about diversity and inclusion, and they talk a lot about, that means supporting different ethnic backgrounds, but actually we can now truly support people with disabilities now. There's a much wider spectrum of people out there that you can support, and because we're remote now, so that I think is the future, where you can hire the best person in Johannesburg. If they're the best person for the job, they're the best person for the job. And I quite like that fearlessness that we 100%. Can now go out and do that.
I do. I've said it on a previous show. I think there's pros and cons to this whole, wider talent pool piece. I think the pros are genuinely, like, you're not bound by who can get to the office. And, I'll use Gareth in South Africa, my hire. He's incredible. Like, he's genuinely an amazing hire, and he's been brilliant for the business, and he's culturally a great fit. I mean, it pisses me off that it's like 32 degrees heat every day at the moment, but that is not his fault. And he did actually come in the other day, and we were like, on a group Zoom, he goes, "Look at this, guys," and shows a picture, and his dog had just ripped up a rattlesnake in the garden. I was like, that would not happen in my dog is like chewing on a bone or something. But it is, and culturally it's good for the business. It's all different. But then when you look at the recruitment market on the whole, all I've heard from my customers is, there's the candidate movement, whilst the opportunity is bigger, the commitments change. The way that people move has changed. And, taking a day off to get ready to go to an office on the other side of London is a genuine commitment that you're interested in that job. Whereas saying, "Oh, I'll do a Zoom at 1 o'clock till 2 in your pants," that's not the same level of commitment. Interview to placement ratios are going. They're going to grow. Like, they are growing, and but recruiters need to be aware and be faster to that trend than the in-house teams. We've got to add our value by saying, well, this is at the market. Look, of course we can go external and look around the world, but probably going to take longer. And the people, when it's Zoom, and are they going to be as committed? Well, we're going to expect to meet more people. And I've seen that consistently. Oh, one question I had for you, because you guys operate in such a technical space, has it changed much when it comes to the development community? Because I was already hearing like a huge push to the remote developer anyway. Like, that's what the candidate community already wanted this. So has it been good for that side of the business?
It has, definitely, in many ways. Although ironically, like all of us, it's like having too much chocolate. So there's the software engineer. Too much of a good thing, and so yeah, all of our software engineers will continue to talk about wanting fully remote work, and now they've all had it. It's amazing how many of them don't want it, want the blend. So it's the blend people want, and it's a blend that companies can offer. And that has definitely helped. Retention. We talk a lot with our clients about onboarding and retention. It's not just about finding the right candidates, it's about getting them onboarded properly and then retaining them. And this will all help with that. If you use technology right and you embrace a lot of all of the new world, you're going to retain people much, much longer than your competition. But it is trying to get it right. And you're right, things are evolving, on a weekly basis, if not daily. So I think companies have to evolve as well and understand what it is that's affecting people today, which might be different to yesterday.
Yeah. One of the final questions I've got for you, because I know your business, and I know you and JP and the team were all bought into such a big vision over the next few years. I think it was 3 to 5 years. You had this big plan, and I had a look at my own 2020 forecast stupidly a couple of weeks ago. I was like, why did I look at that? We had to rip it up, basically. What impact has that had on that future vision? And can you tell us a bit more about where you're heading and how that has changed since the beginning of the year?
Yeah, it has had an obvious impact. We're 20% down on headcount than we would have been, and we are. So we've looked at 20. We're putting 2020 down as the freeze year, if you like. So it's the strategy hasn't changed. How we're going to get there potentially has. We've created a few more products that we have. We definitely understand that there's now. You need to offer clients tech to be even more stickier than them. That's the learning of it. So that's now part of our new strategy moving forward. How do we embed technology within our clients? So it's sharpened our tool set. CRM or an ATS applicant tracking system, retention tools. We've got a venture. I think about our fund. We've got a fund that we invest in, like HR technology. So to AI, we've invested in a great company called Recce that hosts candidate communities. But if you're not offering this sort of stuff to your clients as a service, then you're only as good as your last placement. So to relate that to the question around strategy, we're still very much bought in. We have 30% of the business that's owned by the staff, and we're committed to doing an investment round in 4 years' time, which means we have no interest in selling the company, but we are going to want to get investment to take the business onto the next journey, which rewards the people who have been with the business through that period. So our trigger numbers are still the same to achieve that. The values of the business are still very much the same to achieve it. But what changes is how you get there and where you focus on and what are those services that truly stand you out from all the other good businesses out there.
Do you think it's changed you as a person, this situation?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's reminded me what I love about the industry, without doubt. Being back in front of clients and it's given me a new energy beyond belief in that regards. Reminded yourself how important it is and how the value you can offer people is more than sitting behind, and organizing, being a sergeant major, ordering the troops around. So it's definitely changed me. It's humbled me a little bit. It did the first couple of months, and I was learning off my guys. The approaches I used to make 5-10 years ago are different now. I do more BD off WhatsApp than I do on a phone call, and that was my guys telling me, MS Teams is a brilliant way of getting hold of someone, a client, by trying to contact them, much better than a phone call.
Wow.
Do
you think people will still be cold calling in 5 years' time?
No, I think anyone who's cold calling now is it's a losing battle. You're going to win one or two business because you're the right person at the right time, but how much hours you have to put to do that? You've got to be relevant, and again, when I turn around to any of my teams and say, we've potentially got these projects, it's still around candidate communities. Do you know people? But cold calling is gone. That's for sure. If you don't have something that people want, they don't have time, and why would they?
Because I said that on a status on LinkedIn, I got absolutely hounded. I got a few direct messages as well, being like, "What did someone say to me? Like, you must have been shit at cold calling." I was like, to be honest, I wasn't, but I never enjoyed it. Even at my peak of recruiting, I never enjoyed it. To me, if you said to me, "Sean, phone that guy, I know him, and I've got some information for you," or phone the guy, he doesn't know you, you don't know him. I think he's probably going to be right. He might be at his desk between 9 and 10. I'm well excited about this. I think the buzz you get off actually winning business from cold calling is an amazing feeling. And that's whenever I ask in my academy, do you enjoy cold calling? You always get a couple that go, yeah, love it. And the question is actually bullshit. Do you enjoy calling people up out of the blue? What you enjoy is the buzz when you achieve it. And that I think that's something that I'm not going to take from anyone. But the time you just said invested to stare at lists of names that you don't even know with no hook other than the fact that you think you might be able to recruit for them. I mean, it's ludicrous right now.
Well, and what gets me on this is why ring 100 people that have no connections with each other saying the same thing over, and why not get clever? And you still speak to 100 people, but target your top 10 companies with the top 10 decision makers, have something relevant to speak to each one of them about, have that all pre-planned and prepared, make the right introductions. I mean, it's still a sales-based business, but 100%. The impact, it's like confidence. I relate it to like Jerry Maguire. If anyone's seen Jerry Maguire out there, we are...
Show me the money.
Yeah, but we are sports agents. You have to go out there with absolute belief that you've got something to offer people that your competition don't. And you don't do that by doing 100 phone calls or spamming one candidate to 100 clients saying this person's great for your business, and they have no idea why. I mean, I know we're both fans of Audro, for example, the video platform. Now that is a better tool than any cold calling of making an introduction to a new client. To still follow up, don't get me wrong, we follow up, and we the goal is to get them on the phone and build a relationship. But there's so much better ways of doing it now.
You remember the formula I taught you around, what you should be doing on LinkedIn every day, regardless, right? And people, it's funny, really. Like, people are so obsessed with BD, but actually spending time on LinkedIn and just liking, commenting, engaging with people, in my opinion, if you're looking at the right people and you're strategically choosing who you want to engage with, that's BD in a modern way. Like, I don't remember the last time I answered the phone to someone who I didn't know, who I didn't really, I see numbers, I'll be honest, and I run a business. I see numbers that I don't recognize, and I'm a bit like, really? Like, I've got another call in 5, and I need a drink. I've got another client I need to speak to. We're all a little bit like, we've become this like we have times where we do our outreach, and then we have times where we do our actual conversations. So it's crazy because I look at 2015, maybe when I was at my peak in recruitment in London. I don't think I booked a single call in the diary. I used to call you at 10, and I'd put a meeting in, but a call would just be a call. Whereas now I'm back-to-back calls or videos all day. We've actually got a few comments from the LinkedIn Live. I don't know who this is. Someone that says LinkedIn user. You might need to write in a comment. If for some reason it doesn't tell me you are. Launched in January and haven't made a single cold call this year, yet managed to survive or build a successful agency despite the climate, which is incredible, Charlie. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Would you have, if someone had said that to you when you started at Arrows Group, that you could build a business in a recession without making a cold call, what would you have said?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, would you? You literally wouldn't believe it. It's but there's this person here is absolutely spot on. I think the difference to be clear is there's, in my view, when I've talked about cold calling to me is when you've literally got a list of names to call with a very bland reason of calling, with no research done, and it's a numbers game, just hoping that someone happens to need your service, versus still making having a reason to speak with someone, having referrals into them, arranging, doing all of the sort of prep work, which ultimately still leads to the call anyway. And once you're in the flow, and this is what we speak to our guys or girls about, once you're in the flow, you're doing as many calls as you probably would have done, but they're booked, they're organized, they're valid, so the success ratio is so much higher than calling 100 people.
What we're not saying is outreach is dead. We're not saying calls are dead. We're saying calling lists of people with no research, no connection, no hook, no thought, that's dead, which used to be a bit like them. You get them. You're on a dialer with some call centers, aren't you? Where they pick up the phone and it's dialing you. They don't even know who you are till you answer. Like, it's nuts. Yeah. We do know it's Martin Drake now, by the way, who made that comment. He's thank you, Martin, for letting us know. It didn't for some reason doesn't show up on LinkedIn. Someone also wrote, I almost wrote an article this year to say that recruitment needs to transition to the Jerry Maguire model. It's definitely a common theme. Do you know what? I actually explain that to people when they don't know what recruitment is. When I was in, they'd be like, what do you really do? And I'd be like, well, look at a football team and look at a football agent. If you wanted to be like the top agent, you'd have to specialize in potentially like Premier League strikers, right? I'd know every striker in the Premier League. I'd know the tall one, the small one, the fat one, the thin one, the skillful one, the bruiser. I'd know it all. And then I'd also know every manager in the Premier League, and I'd know what their requirements were. And at any time I could connect the dots, and people could understand it that way. Yeah. Whereas, most people just think recruitment outside is just like high street, like temp work or something, don't they?
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, for me, it's all about confidence building. So when you're speaking to people who are starting in this industry, and you've got to have that fear, that shield of confidence and immortality, and that comes from truly believing in your product. And if you don't believe in it, don't sell it. So if there's no point trying to introduce a candidate to a client if you know that candidate isn't right for that client. It's pointless. That's the cold calling. Whereas if you do have the candidate with the right skills to the client with the right needs, you should be fearless. That is your job, you are the sports agent doing a value to both the client and the candidate. And that gives you that level of confidence beyond it. But it's something that you've got to try success as well, isn't it? If you keep getting battered down, you've got to learn what your skill set is. And it doesn't need to be extroverts. My sales director, introverts are as good at sales as extroverts, because actually it's how you build relationships.
In a different way. And you sell just to different people. Like, I reckon there was clients that I would have turned off that someone else would have turned on, and you still get the end result in place. That moves me into the, I keep saying the final question, Charlie. We keep rolling this, but what's your approach to training new recruiters then, moving into the new world? I do feel a bit for the junior end of the market, the guys that previously you'd say, go and sit next to that guy and learn from him. That's going to be much harder. So how are Arrows going to approach that challenge moving forward? Yeah,
and that's a really good point, because it's that is one of the huge benefits of being 5 days a week and in an office is the learning by osmosis, and that's just not a reality now. The truth, we are changing our employee persona a little bit. So where we were very graduate focused, actually I'm actively looking at probably people who have had at least work experience, so they understand office environments, because then there's a part there that's already done. And then it's all about tech again. So we use cloud calls. So everything with our training, although it's not live, it's recorded. And when anyone, we do fun incentives for people who do the worst and best calls, and so that it can go into the library, so our trainers can sit down then with new joiners and show the best and worst calls. And I very much live by example on that. So people have access. Oh yeah, and I think it's important. That humility just goes so far. But you're right. We use Recruitment Juice, which is our online training platform now. But again, that's with our learning team and L&D team. Our management style has changed. So the sales managers no longer run performance, the monthly reviews. That's actually led by our training and development teams, because it's very much around how do you support them in a remote environment rather than look at numbers and revenue. It's what else is there? Oh, we have got onboarding right and wrong. So we did have a couple of people join probably 3 months ago, and we got it wrong. It's the first time we've onboarded in COVID, and we forgot the importance of that first couple of weeks where you would normally have coffee chats and you would have team meetings and you would get to know everyone. And we had 2 people join, and they didn't get that experience, and it meant that they didn't get that same onboarding experience as someone normally would. And we didn't think about it. We thought, let's train them for a week remotely, get them working for a week. They'll get to meet everyone through meetings, but you don't.
Yeah, at Benquist, we used to do the onboarding was about, like, you had to go in and speak to as many people as you could and then build an org chart and present it back. So we still do that. I do that. I brought that to Hoxo. And again, we've just hired 2 people last week, and last week was their what does everyone do conversation. And they went out, they booked 15 minutes with everyone, came back, presented an org chart, and it looked great. And it just shows you that, you can tick the box that they've spoken to everyone, B, they understand how the business operates, what teams, what different divisions, and etc. So that's worked well. Charlie, I'm mindful of time. It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy spending time with you. But one thing about you as well is how honest you've always been. You've always been so humble in all of our engagements, and it's been lovely to hear you. It's not all been perfect. One question just come through from Leisha Holmes. Charlie, fabulous points made for hiring, onboarding. Osmosis learning can happen though. Do you have a buddy scheme in your business?
Yeah, that's a great one. And actually, we did, as we had staff managers, live managers, and mentors. That stopped over COVID, and that's coming back now as a recent learning of how important it is for our next tranche of new joiners.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's one of the fundamental reasons why we might not have got it right a month or so ago, and you need to bring that back. The thing we have introduced, which again is now, we're doing coffee meetings where people randomly, 4 names are getting pulled out of a hat, and you guys have a coffee chat together. And the nice thing about that is that's including Holland, Germany, and the UK. So it's not quite a buddy system, but it means that people are speaking to each other that wouldn't ever normally speak to each other, which has been an advantage now of COVID, in the fact that you can do that, because you're not just spending all day every day with your 5 people in your team.
But oh God, I wish I could have one day with just 5 people in my team. I'm so long, I miss it. Charlie, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I imagine if anyone listening either live today or listening back on the podcast or YouTube, if they wanted to talk to you directly, you're happy to have an intro and give them any insights. Yeah. So yeah. Charlie, obviously LinkedIn, I'll tag you and everything. Best place to get you. We'll catch up again soon. Let's get another chat in the new year. One thing I love about Arrows is you've always been so forward thinking. And as we move into 2021, my podcast, I want to talk about the future of this industry. Like I'm a little bit jaded by the past, I'll be honest. And I think COVID has accelerated so much of where I felt the industry was going anyway. And it's kind of brought it to the surface for everyone. So I'm excited to go into detail about that. Also, Leisha has just said, loves the peer-to-peer group. Superb. It can be done. It definitely can do. Guys, if you're listening either live or on the recording, please do me a favor. If you're listening on the recording, please can you share this with other people? Like, there's so many other recruitment owners out there who can benefit from hearing Charlie's story, can benefit from hearing the Arrows information. The more we stick together at times like this, the better. I know lockdown 2 has not been anywhere near as scary for many of us as lockdown 1, but there's still a hell of a lot of people out there that need support. So let's share. Also, I mentioned it again on Thursday. Anyone who's watching who would love to love to have their own podcast. Charlie is a first-hand experience of working with me. We've worked together, build his podcast this year. It's getting amazing reviews. He's interviewing some of the best CTOs in technology across the globe. And we've said lockdown 2 is affecting UK business owners, recruitment businesses. We want to give away a free project to help you build a podcast. So we will work with you. I will work with you to specifically go, right, are we going to launch a show? What's the name going to be? What's the logo? What's the artwork? Why are we doing it? Who are we going to interview? We'll physically create that for you, and we will edit your first 3 episodes completely for free. There is no, I said on the last video, there's no catch, but the catch is, there is a catch. The catch is you've got to be in the UK and you have to work for a recruitment company. And then there's only 1 nomination per agency. So please, if you're interested, comment "I'm interested" below this video. If you've already commented last week, you only get 1 vote. But right, I'm interested. And if you're watching this back, comment "I'm interested" at any time. We're going to keep checking who's writing that, and then we're going to announce the winner on Monday, November the 30th. So we've already got about 45, 50 agencies that have put their name in the hat. So please get involved. We'd love to work with you guys directly. I'll be back again Thursday morning, 8 a.m. UK time, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern time, with Paul Hallam, the founder and executive director of 6 Degrees Executive, an amazing Melbourne headquartered business who, like Stephen Carter last week, have just come out of the world's harshest, longest lockdown. So I'm very, very excited. And Paul is an absolute character as well. One of the most, I'd say he's the most challenging guy I've worked with on the Academy, in the way that he'd ask me some absolute cracking questions to the point where I didn't even know the answers. So it's going to be hilarious on Thursday morning. If you can join us at 8 a.m., please do. If not, listen back on the recording. Guys, I'll be back again soon. In the meantime, please stay safe, and we'll catch up very soon.